All right. You're back. You're really back. Why on earth did you click on this video? You have serious problems. But I'm glad you're back, and we're back here in Genesis 47. When's the last time you read 47? I see that hand back there. I see the hand. Well, excuse me. This is the beginning of, third week of February, and I'm reading through the chapter through the Bible, and I just read it. I just read Genesis 47. Good for you. Good for you. We're going to read it again. So, verse 1, Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, My father and my brethren, their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto the brethren, What is your occupation? Remember chapter 46. Tell them you're shepherds. Thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said moreover unto Pharaoh, For to sojourn in the land are we come, thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Very sore, and they've got a few more years to go. We pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before them. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. Kind of interesting. So, obviously, if they're worshiping the cattle, they're going to need somebody. Egyptians are going to need cattle caretakers, people who know the ins and outs. It's kind of gross, but the ins and outs of taking care of cattle. When they're sick, if they have this ailment, where's the best grass for the cows, and if the cow's having a bad day, how do you help the cow? So just somebody, Pharaoh's saying, hey, if there's anybody who's expert at raising cattle, I want him working with my cattle. So the land of Egypt before them. Verse 7, Joseph brought in Jacob, his father, and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. That's pretty cool. Pharaoh said unto Jacob, How old art thou? And Jacob has an interesting response. You kind of get the little bit of an attitude here, a little bit of a whine going on here, and you get that kind of that carnality that's still in Jacob. And if you look closer at yourself in your Christian walk, you see that carnality too, which is unfortunate. Thankfully, new body, new heaven, all that's gone, but we are to be working to be more Christ-like while we're on the earth. That's why God left us here. Jacob said unto Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage, which is very interesting. He used the word pilgrimage. He realized this earth is not all there is. Are 130 years. We're still in the good old days where you could live 130 years. Few. We're seeing now, at least in America, maybe 78, 82 is that range of age where people are living in. That's phenomenal for that to be the average. So here he's saying, few and evil have been these measly 130 years. So, you get a little twinge of attitude there. Few have been evil been the days of my life, and I've not unto the days I have not attained as in days of my fathers. Well, yeah, but they were living, close to 500 something years, and we got that slow progression where the earth's changing, you're not living as long, you got that DNA breakup of the body, sin starting to take a bigger hold on the fabric of humans, and the bodies are just breaking down more, and you got the earth changing too, where you don't have that perfect setup where the body was just going to live longer. So that's just that natural progression. By the time you get to the Psalms, 70, maybe 80 years max. So you see that progression, but Jacob's a little bit like, I only got to live 130 years. And it's like, man, this is just so evil and bad. I didn't get to live like Methuselah 900 and something years. I was like, man, this just stinks. So you get Jacob's attitude. But what's very interesting there is he understood his life was a pilgrimage. We need to understand our lives are a pilgrimage as well. This is not it. We're to be living so that we represent Christ to others, because our future home was with the Christ forever. Verse 10, And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. I guarantee you, Jacob's blessing Pharaoh was more important than Pharaoh's blessing Jacob. Although they're both very interesting. Verse 11, Joseph placed his father and his brethren and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt and the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, and as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren and all his father's household with bread according to their families, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of this famine. This is a bad deal. And Joseph gathered up all of the money that was found in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan for the corn which they had brought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when money failed, that's a whole other video series you could get. Kind of reminds me of, at least from some teaching I've heard and some parallels I've heard from this passage of America's Great Depression in the 30s. And the way FDR kind of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president at the time, how he kind of handled the predicament, and how you get some of those little bits of socialism in here to make this work. So it's kind of interesting. Whole different topic, though, we don't need to get into. But we went pretty far anyways. Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? So they relinquished their properties. Here you go. Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle, the herds, and for the asses. And he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. And when the year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said to him, we will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent, my lord, also our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our lands. I was like, this body and our lands, this is all we have to offer. We're talking about seriously financial terrible times. I mean, very reminiscent of the Depression. Sorry, trying to remember what I was saying there. So here's Joseph's solution. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, for the flocks, for the cattle. When the year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said to him, we will not hide it from my lord. I read that already. Verse 19, skip there. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land. They're selling themselves into servitude, an indentured servant type of thing. And they're selling their land back to the government. And let's see, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. You got a point. Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them, so the land became Pharaoh's. Very bad times. Very bad times. As for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end thereof. Only the land of the priests bought he not. But the priests had a portion assigned of them of Pharaoh, and did eat the portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. That's interesting. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the fifth part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, for food for your little ones. And they said, thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. So basically the entire nation has now been indentured servants now to Pharaoh. Very, very interesting. They said, verse 26, Joseph made a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. Remember that dude who was whining about being, I'm only 130 years old? Well, he lived in Egypt another 17 years. I tell you what, God is merciful. God really blessed this man. Dies in 147 years old. Verse 29, and the time drew nigh that Israel must die, and he called his son Joseph and said to him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt, but I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as thou hast said. And he said, swear unto me. And he swore unto himself, and Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. So a very interesting transition. We see this political issues with the people in the land during this time of famine. Very fascinating there. It's a rough time for the people of Egypt. And then we see Joseph's passing away here, or Jacob's passing away, I'm sorry. So what does 48 hold for us? What does chapter 48 hold? You have to tune in next time to find out.